Student Activities Coordinator here at London Met Student Union, and welcome to the official London Met SU Presidential Debate 2021. So you might be asking, well, what is this all about? Essentially, tonight, you're going to get to meet the candidates vying for the position of SU President, where they'll be representing you across the year at the university, at the union, and elsewhere. Naturally, a little bit different to previous years. Our hair's a bit longer than it usually would be, and we don't have a live audience for this debate. Everything's being done online, and it's worth bearing in mind that not only watching this video to get a sense of who's running for president and what their priorities are to make up your mind, but make sure you follow candidates' social media to find out more information about what they're up to and ask them questions about their manifestos. So what we're going to start off with are some presidential candidate introductions. Each of our candidates is going to be given 1 minute where you'll be able to introduce yourself, talk briefly about your manifesto, and mention any social media that you would like people to follow. Does that make sense to everybody here? Okay, seeing some nods, cool. So I will start off with Yasmeen. Hello, Yasmeen. You have 1 minute to talk about your manifesto, introduce yourself, and mention any social media you want to encourage people to follow.
My name is Yasmeen. I am in my second year of International Relations, Peace and Conflict Studies. I'm the current Women's Officer, and I'm running for president. Some of the things on my manifesto include introducing a variety of more of a range of assessments to accommodate different students' strengths, to ensure that opportunities for employment becomes a key focus of the Students' Union and the university as a whole, to improve and expand the range of the mental health services that are provided in the university. I would also like to include LGBTQ+ education into the curriculum, because I feel that we've worked towards decolonizing curriculum. I feel that we should take this a step further. I also want to tackle the stigma surrounding sexual health, especially around women, but students in general. And I want to work with the Sex and Relationships Society to create a healthy dialogue in a safe space.
Thank you, Yasmeen. And we will move on to Cynthia. So hello, Cynthia. You have 1 minute just to introduce yourself, talk briefly about your manifesto, and mention any social media you want people to follow.
Hi, I am Cynthia Edo. I am the current full-time officer for the School of Social Sciences and School of Social Professions, and I'm running for president. The main points about my manifesto is what I'll be focusing or continues to focus on will be expanding. I'm already working with the head of student services of when it comes to mental well-being of students, especially during during COVID, and the importance of mental well-being as a whole. Is continuing to work on expanding the services that they provide students, but also raising more awareness, because I do believe that we do, as a university, they do have a good different service ranges, but just a lack of awareness of allowing students to know about the services as well. So that will be one of my focus. I also will be continuing to work on decolonizing the curriculum, but as well as ensuring that both LGBT and BAME students are actually inclusive and reflected in the curriculum, as well as feel like they belong and owned as well. And I will also be working on that EDI. Continue to work on that, as well as ensuring that the BAME students actually have the right services to help them achieve decreasing the awarding gap as well. And yeah, so my main social media is I am C Edo on Instagram.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. That's just about time. So thank you very much for Yasmeen and Cynthia for joining us today. It's worth mentioning that some candidates aren't here tonight. You can look at their manifestos online when you're making a decision. So the debate question order has randomly been allocated to Yasmeen and Cynthia before the debate. If either one of you wants to come in and say something, just say next on the chat. It will be first come, first serve. And it's worth mentioning, guys, you can speak more than once. It can only be one of you at a time. We don't want each other shouting over one another, but respond to each other's points, challenge each other, show off your character. It's going to help the students watching today make up their minds about who they want to vote for. There's an allotted amount of time given to each question, and if time overruns, moderator, who's another member of the Students' Union staff team, will jump in to tell you that your time is up. And I hope that all makes sense. So what we will do now is we'll move on to the first question. And this question is for Cynthia. The president's role is traditionally considered to be the lead officer of all the elected officers. What do you think is the best approach to leading a team of officers?
I think for me, it's acknowledging that just because I'm considered, or the role is considered a leader or the lead of the officers, I believe that we're all leaders in our own rights. Every officer is a leader, and I also believe in that. It's allowing each individual to be themselves and to bring to the table their own set of skills as well, and allowing just knowing that the fact that each officer can do what they want to do in terms of obviously knowing that they will be held accountable for their actions, but most importantly that knowing that we all can work together for a common purpose and common goal, and being able to represent their thoughts, represent their views when I'm in meetings with leadership teams as well, and just and acknowledging their strength as well, and actually building on that.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I'll come to Yasmeen. So I'll just repeat the question. The president role was traditionally considered to be the lead officer of all the elected officers. What do you think the best approach is to leading a team of officers?
I think the best approach to leading a team of officers would be to focus on teamwork and team building exercises. So say from the start of office, we work together to get to know each other better first and ensure what our common goals are and how we can take the steps towards achieving those goals. And I feel that in a way, president is only a title. And at the end of the day, all of us are responsible in ensuring the well-being of our students and to work together. That's what we're all trying to do at the end of the day. However, yes, as Cynthia also mentioned, it is important to show accountability. But it's always, always good to make sure you build relationships within your team and ensure that everyone gets what they want.
There's neither of our candidates want to add to that. What I will move on to is the second question, which we're starting off with Yasmeen this time. So if the university decided to do something that you were against, how would you approach this and what would you do about it?
The university was to do something I am personally against. I would try to approach the university and try to understand why it is they're trying to do what they want to do. And I would involve the team, the exec team, and to see what their views are, because just because I will be the president doesn't just mean that I hold all the power in terms of decision making. I feel that it's democratic. We are a democracy, and I feel that everyone's views should be shared and represented. And so even if I was personally against, I think I would have to listen to the exec team and say they were for what the university was trying to do, then I would support them, whether or not I'm personally against that. Because at the end of the day, if that is what the university thinks and the rest of the exec team thinks is what's best for the students, then perhaps I would need to better understand that. And I would just work towards understanding everyone's perspectives.
I will move on to Cynthia. So Cynthia, if the university decided to do something you were against, how would you approach it and what would you do about it?
For me, I think it kind of depends on what exactly the university is trying to do. I think it's obviously trying to get understand of the reason behind what they're trying to do and why they're doing it. And if it is going to be detrimental to the students, which is essentially why we're there as a union, and as obviously as the president and the officers team, is to obviously get the thoughts of what the officers team, the exec team, what they're thinking. And if I still don't feel like it's if I still don't agree with it, then it's essentially getting the students' thoughts on it, because it's for the student. If it's detrimental to the students, it's important to get the students' thoughts on what the university are trying to do or trying to implement. So for me, it's always getting the students' voice in decisions, because essentially, if the decision is going to impact them, they need to have a say in it. So for me, it's always getting the student voice in it and see what the student wants in that circumstances, and then from there on, then it depends on how the student want to receive it. Yeah.
Yasmeen, is that something you agree with on your end? So Cynthia was talking a lot about making sure that the student voice is there when resolving conflict or, disagreements when it comes to the university. I'm really interested. What are your thoughts on that approach? Do you think that's the right approach to take?
I mean, I do think that it is very important to insert the student voice. However, at the same time, we are, of course, elected by the students to represent them. And my question is, how exactly will we insert their voice even more? Will we be talking to student reps, to the student council? Because if that was the case, then there would be a lot of work to do with them. And how will we involve them with certain things, purely because we are full-time officers, and there are certain things that we are just meant to do, that is because it is part of our role as president of the SU. And personally, I think also, I just feel that it is always important to also insert the voice of the other exec officers, because it's just they've also been elected to represent their school, the schools they've been elected to represent. And I feel that, if they represent the student voice of those schools, surely their input would also be very, very valuable.
So I'll just come to Cynthia as well. So essentially, Yasmeen asked the question, how would we insert their voices even more than we already do, in terms of student reps and student council, as an example? What were your thoughts on that?
I think essentially, yeah, if the purpose of obviously student reps is to get student voice even more, because they are in the classes with the students. That's why they are student reps. That's why they represent students, and it's feeding back to the student reps. Getting the student council decision on it if that needs to be done, and feeding back and asking the student reps to feed back to us as officers and as the exec teams. Within the exec teams, there will be students anyway, because there'll be part-time officers as well. So it's also collecting that data from the exec team who are currently students, as well as the student reps who represent students within the courses, and using that information to come to a conclusion. Really, I think it is as much as we are elected by students, we. And the whole purpose of this is to represent students and is to work for students and is to serve students. But it's also important to know that there are still students there, and we can't think for every student. And it's important to get their voices and their thoughts on, especially on big decisions as well, that will impact them. So yeah, it's utilizing what we have, which are, like, as you mentioned, student reps, who are very, very vital to us getting communication from and to students.
So we'll come on to Yasmeen as well as a response to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the point that in terms of election, in terms of making decisions for the students and based on the students' well-being, it is important to note that we were elected to do that. And it's just that sometimes I feel that asking students a lot might make them feel less inclined to keep participating, purely because it's something. And on top of that, like, students sometimes may struggle to understand what exactly the university is trying to do. And it's kind of up to us to sort of work together with them to help them understand and say that this is what we're looking at doing. So what the university is planning on doing. How do you feel about it? But at the same time, it's always good to make sure that they don't feel that kind of pressure to make these really important decisions, purely because students at the end of the day are students, and they're focused on their own education and their well-being and their lives at uni and their experiences at uni. And so for the officers that they've elected to represent them, to make these decisions based on their well-being, to come back to the students and say, we're not sure what to do, might make the exec team feel a little less legitimate, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we've got a response from Cynthia. I'll get to Cynthia now.
Thank you. For me, I do feel, I understand your point, but at the same time, I feel like students want to be involved, and it's why they elected us. And it's not, I'm not saying go to students for every pinpoint, every little thing, of course not, because that would defeat the purpose of us being elected. But at the same time, if it is a important thing that is going to affect, because you, as you mentioned, students are focusing on their mental well-being, are focusing on their studies and their experiences in university. But if that decision is impacting those things they're meant to be focusing on, then yeah, they have every single right to be involved in a decision that will impact their experiences, their studies, and their well-being. So therefore, again, obviously we need wisdom with those things. We need to understand what to go to students for. I'm not saying we need to go to students for every decision. Of course not. But at the same time, it's just being wise to know what decision and what things are we going to take to students and to get their thoughts on. If it's something that is a big impact on student, let's say, for example, blended learning, that is currently within the topic of that it's been spoken about. That is something that students want to have an influence and want to have a voice in. So again, that's something that we'll need to go to students to get their thoughts on. We can't as officers or elected officers make a decision on blended learning when students are the ones that will be greatly impacted by those things. So of course we're going to go to students and get their voices on it. Again, like I mentioned, it just depends on what the topic is or what the decision is about. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for your answers there. And I suppose this leads me on to the next question that I've got for you. And this question goes to Cynthia, first of all. So, Cynthia, do you think the university has done enough to support students through the ongoing pandemic? And if not, what would you have the Students' Union challenge the university on?
I think it's a yes or no answer. And I say yes because I've worked with the university this past year. And I've seen the amount of work they've put in. So for me to sit here and say, no, they've done nothing, that won't be true. And then that will be just very much dishonest to what the university is actually doing. You know, they do a lot of work. You know, they are trying. They've obviously adjusted to just online teaching just as much as the students, because as we all know, London Met is not built for online system. They're not an online university. So they've had to adapt. They've had to, you know, a lot of the lecturers had to adapt, and the whole university as a whole, and then, you know, the systems had to put up. So yeah, they have done quite a lot of work, I feel. But at the same time, I can't sit here and say the online teaching is just as good as in-person teaching, because it's not. And I don't think it will ever be. And I think that in itself, it's allowing the student union can challenge in terms of the quality of teaching they're giving the students. You know, our student genuinely receiving the best education right now in terms of what they're receiving. The mental well-being being looked after, because students are not only dealing with an online teaching, but they're also dealing with pandemic. losing family or friends. And it's a lot of things our university caring for that, catering for that. And our students also are they being taken care of in terms of the marking and the grading and things like that are actually impactful, but also thinking of employment in such a scary time for students right now that are spending so much within the university. Are the university actually catering to students to prepare them for after this time and the world that the students are going into right now? Because it's not how it was before the pandemic. And are they actually mentally preparing students for that just as much as they're preparing them professionally as well? So I think that is something that the student union can definitely challenge them on, in terms of what are the next steps, for the quality and the money that students are paying. Are they actually getting what the value that they're paying for? But yeah.
Yasmeen, so I'll just repeat the initial question. Do you think the university has done enough to support students through the ongoing pandemic? And if not, what would you have the Students' Union challenge the university on?
Personally, I think, yes, they have done their best, but I wouldn't say it's enough. But that, again, is not necessarily the university's fault, purely because this pandemic was a big surprise for all of us. And I do think that the university, personally, because I'm a student myself, I have noticed how hard the professors have worked to improve, to maintain that quality, high quality of learning and online teaching. However, there are still certain things that we can do to sort of enhance the teaching qualities that have been produced, by London Met. And personally, I think one of them is also making these core textbooks. For example, as a social science student myself, there are certain textbooks that are still not available in online for a lot of students, and that's especially with core textbooks. And I think we need to make certain things like that more accessible. I feel like one of the main things that students really need, especially with their assessments, is enough resources to access, especially academic journals and textbooks. Furthermore, another big worry for a lot of students, especially third year students, and especially in the coming year, is just the uncertainty of employment after uni. And I feel that the London Met can do a lot better to improve this access, improve placement opportunities, and just make opportunities a lot more accessible for students, because there's just so much uncertainty. And I feel that I would like to work with the university, with the SU, with the exec team to figure out how we can improve students' employability skills, how they can have develop more practical skills in the time of the pandemic, and also be able to access work opportunities.
You mentioned that core textbooks for certain modules should be more accessible, and generally the availability of resources in general. Just to put this to Cynthia, is this something you agree with? So do you think core textbooks are a bit inaccessible at the moment? What are your thoughts on this?
I think, yeah, there are. I have heard or complaints, students raising issues about textbook not being available or just lack of resources online, and then that is something that I have spoken to the library staff about, and it's not something that they have control over, because they're just certain resources or certain books that they just don't have an online book for. So that's something that is out of their control. But it's also, and this comes back to decolonising the curriculum, it's expanding the resources and actually using different books that the students can actually expand their knowledge on, and being able to support them in the courses as well. So it's actually using different sets of resources, and not just a book, because I know when I was a student last year, I graduated, you know, I was also using the garden and using that as to use that for my courses. So yeah, it's definitely something that the university needs to work on, but at the same time, it's something that's also out of the university's control. But at the same time, it's the university being able to understand, okay, this is out of our control. What more that can be done, and that's something that I'm definitely will be working with the university on. Currently, I'm doing it now, and something that I definitely will be doing if elected as president.
Yasmeen has asked to go next, so I'll come over to Yasmeen to comment on that.
Yeah, so I wanted to add something to what Cynthia was saying, especially in terms of core textbooks, but also in terms of just other courses. I'm just thinking of also other courses such as science courses and like pretty much more practical courses. In answer to your question, the main question, Harry, is just also that we need to work together and improve access to studios and labs for students, purely because they won't be able to develop practical skills otherwise, because there's no way for students to access studios outside of uni, because right now we're in a lockdown, and after that there's just, once again, like the struggle in terms of finances as well for students. So we need to be able to provide those facilities to students. And furthermore, what Cynthia said about some things that are out of the university's controls in terms of core textbooks, the thing is, with students who are, say, 50, which have 50 students on a module or 70 students on a module, and yet there are only 3 copies of the core textbook available in the library, is completely unfair. And on top of that, right now, because we're in a lockdown, we're not even able to access those library resources, and it's not online. So therefore, we have literally no access right now since December. So it's just, I find it very hard to say that uni is kind of, it's kind of out of the university's control. But I also wanted to ask a question about Cynthia's point when she first answered the question, as to how you've helped with assisting like online delivery of courses.
Quickly add the side before that. So Cynthia, you'll have a chance to respond to this question, and then we'll move on to the next question, guys, in terms of time. So you'll be able to respond, and then move on to the next question. So I'll hand it over to Cynthia.
Sorry, can I just clarify the question, Yasmeen?
I was just going to say that how have you worked with the university to improve online delivery of courses? Okay.
Obviously, I've been working with the Deputy Vice Chancellor, so Donna Whitehead. We have meetings with her in terms of the delivery of online teaching, in terms of first of all, the staff having the right equipment, are the staff internet good, are they actually able to teach online? So that is the first, and the first point is making sure that the staff are actually equipped to deliver online delivery, and at the same time, what are the textbook? You know, these are conversations that are ongoing, and then will continue to be ongoing in terms of, okay, how can we improve the textbook online, on the resources online? We worked with with her on getting lecturers to being able to photocopy certain core chapters that the students actually need for the course, for the courses or for the assignments, and getting that put online as well on the weblearn, so students have access to at least a core chapter for their assignment. So things like that is improving. The things that we can't, if the university aren't able to get the whole book online, then we are trying for them to at least get chapters that are important or pivotal to the students' assignments. So things like that is something that we are also working on, as well as the delivery of how lecturers teach as well. sometimes some students just find it straining being online for too long, so we're also communicating with lecturers on how to break down the lectures so that they're not having 3 hours straight online in front of a computer as well. So things like that. So it's just changing the delivery style, adding more resources online or chapters, or getting lecturers to photocopy chapters online and on WebLearn as well, and making sure that the students are equipped as well, and the students have access to laptops, or being able to get Chromebooks, and being able to have access to internet as well. So those kind of things, that's what myself and other officers I've worked on, and I'll still continue to work on.
So unfortunately, we'll have to go to the next question, Yasmeen, so you won't have the opportunity to respond to that. But this next question is starting off with you. Leadership and management are key skills for successful teamwork within your officer team. What strategies would you use to ensure that you work well as a team among yourself, officers, and staff members?
I think, first of all, like I mentioned earlier as well, it's all about team building exercises. I would like to create as many opportunities. If I'm elected, I would like to create as many opportunities as possible to get to know my team on a personal level, so I can understand what kind of, I can approach them with certain issues or certain ideas. Because as long as we understand each other and understand for example, the way we approach problems, the way we approach events, then we could all work together, if that makes sense. And personally, I just want to make sure I create that safe space as well for all of the officers, so that because I want to create that space that makes the officers feel that no idea is stupid, there are no stupid questions, there is no form of belittling or dismissiveness within the team. If you have any idea, will always get to listen. And if I feel that it may not work out, we can look at alternatives. But if I feel that, yeah, it's a great idea, and the rest of the team thinks so, I will do the best that I can to help you make that happen. So it's just pretty much making sure I develop those relationships early on with the rest of the team and staff.
So I will come to Cynthia as well. So just to reiterate the question, so leadership and management skills are key skills for successful teamwork within your officer team. What strategies would you use to ensure that you would work well as a team among yourselves, the officers, and staff members?
So sorry, can I just clarify, when you say staff members, does that include the university staff, or is it just within the SU?
Yeah, thank you. So we'll be including SU full-time staff and then university staff as well.
Thank you. I think you're just kind of just following up from what Yasmeen said, is obviously team working and building a relationship. I think having a good foundation of building trust within the team is very, very vital to how you're able to work, especially in the coming months, and it's especially when you're new to the role, you're still learning, you're still being trained into your role. I think that is a very, very pivotal point to build trust within your teams, to be able to just build a connection with your team as well, and be able to just be open and transparent with your team as well, but also just acknowledging that we're all different. I think I can't expect someone else I can't expect me from someone else, basically, because that person is not me, neither am I them. It's also appreciating the differences that each individual brings to the table, and being able to work on that difference as well. I know I can be very stern at times, but if someone is very soft, that's great, because we can balance each other out. It's at the same time, it's being able to know your team, to appreciate the differences that they bring to the table, but at the same time to also be a critical friend. I think it's very important. That's what we are as an SU to the university, is see the hard work they're doing, acknowledging the hard work they're doing, but at the same time being able to constructive criticize them. So, okay, can we do this in a better way that will support each other and essentially support the students, because that's what we're all here for. But I think it's also important to have to all know our common goal as well, because we're all working towards one goal, which is to obviously work with the students, work for the students, and get better services and get a better overall for the students. And I think it's very important in having a common goal that we're all working towards, and each individual working in their own path and in their own way to that specific goal. But at the same time, it's trusting each other that we're all working to that common goal as well. Thanks.
Okay, so I will come to Yasmeen to comment on that.
Yeah, first, when you clarified that you were talking about not just the SU officers, but also university staff, of course, I can't always have, I did want to add that, of course, I can't have team building exercises with the university staff because we all have different schedules, we all have our own lives. However, when it comes to building relationships with the university staff, I would do what was done to me when I first became women's officer. And that was when I would send introductory emails, and I would set up meetings where I could have one-on-one chats with certain staff members, and then perhaps have more group meetings with the exec where we could all get to know each other, make sure we're all on the same page, understand each other's goals. What is it you want to accomplish? How can we help each other? But in terms of what Cynthia was saying, may I ask, what do you think is the best way to build the trust of the exec team?
I don't think there's any one best way. I think it's all trial and error, really. I think, again, we're all individuals, we're all different, we all have different personalities. It's the whole point of getting to know each other to be able to be open and transparent. So, for example, obviously myself being a current officer, I work with 3 other full-time officers, and our teams will, for me, I appreciate the current president being open and being transparent and sharing information that she probably gets when she has meetings that we're not in, and she feeds that information back to us officers, so we are able and we are prepped for our teams, our meetings that we go into as well, so we are knowledgeable in that. So it's those kind of little small things in being prepped and being informed. So when officers are going into their meetings or going in to speak to students, they know what they're saying, they're confident in what they're saying, because as a president, that's what you are meant to do. Feedback to your officers, feedback to my feedback to the SU staff or the university as well, what you get from the meetings you go into. So for me, it's building trust is not just a one-time thing, it's a continuous thing. And as an officer right now, we are still building trust. So it never stops, it's always continuous, and it's always continuous being open and transparent. Thanks.
Okay, so I'll just come to Yasmeen.
So my question is, when it comes to the current exec team, how comfortable are you with the trust that you've built with all of us, myself included, because of course we are on the same exec team. How comfortable, how do you feel that we have developed that trust in terms, not just you and me, but also with the rest of the exec team? And is there anything that you would change in terms of building that trust that we have now? Is there anything that you would change in the next exec team, say if you're elected?
I think right now I've not been able to. I think when you're elected, you have your own your part-time officers that you work with. So I work closely with the part-time officers of both schools that I'm full-time officers with. So I'm able to build trust with them. Within when I started my role, I made meetings with them individually to speak to them, to get their goals. What exactly do you want to achieve in your role? And I was aware of that from the very first goal. So that allowed me to build trust with them. It's getting them to know that I want to work with them. We're all here for a purpose. We're all here for the same purpose, and hopefully for the betterment of students. So that's enabled me to build trust with those 2 officers. And it came at the same time when the BAME officer was elected. I also reached out to her, I met up with her as well to have meetings with her again to help her in her role and to give her information that she may need as well. So for me, I've not had the opportunity to go and meet all the other exec officers. And that's something that I feel like it's also important to do. So if elected, that is something it's, as we full-time officers has had time to bond and have meetings and outside work. I think obviously being online has limited that opportunity to just have a normal conversation that's not about work. So and hopefully if we are back to campus, it's all about getting all the exec team together, being able to just actually have a meeting, and it's not just a meeting about work, but just to talk, to get to know, what is your favorite color, what drink do you like, just normal conversations that actually get you to know someone behind the title. And I think that's something that we've haven't done this year, which obviously is not our fault because of the COVID thing, but that's something that I definitely will implement, even if we're still online. Just getting the exec team to kind of just talk to us and being able to kind of start, hopefully the same time as full-time officers start as well, because we as full-time officers we start before for part-time officers. So having that journey as well will allow us to build a better relationship with each other as a whole, not just the full-time officers and part-time officers, but we are collective officers as one.
See that you want to dip in for a second, Yasmeen, but we are pressed for time. I just wanted to ask two questions to both of you about kind of the spirit of your answers to this question. So the word I picked out from your response, Yasmeen, was safe space. You thought safe space was key to managing a team. Could you just elaborate on that? What does a safe space mean to you?
I feel that, to me, a safe space is one in which I feel comfortable enough to share my opinions and ideas and thoughts on certain issues, certain causes, and certain events that I might have in mind. It's a space where I feel that I can trust the other officers to understand what I'm trying to say, to not to listen without any judgment whatsoever, and to give me that honest feedback, but to make sure there's no attacking. We're all working together. We're not working against each other. So it's pretty much making sure that there is a space where we all trust each other, because in my perspective, I want to ensure that I have the trust of everyone before I lead them.
Okay, and in that same vein, Cynthia, so the key word I got from your answer was down to trust. So what does the word trust mean to you?
I think trust it means a lot of things, but I think when it comes to the officers team, I think it's a journey. I think that's what essentially falls down to. It's a journey of letting someone learn, letting someone sometimes fall or make mistakes, and at the same time being able to just pick up and continue in their journey and not feel like they will be condemned because they made a mistake. I think it's being able to understand and to see that someone is human, and we go through our emotions, and we even though you don't want to even though you might not show vulnerability, we're all vulnerable, and being able to feel comfortable to share that vulnerability with your officers team and just say, today I'm just not feeling like it, and having that trust will allow the exec team to be like, okay, you might not feel like it today. You might not be in a good mood, or you feel like it's a lot to carry. But being able to share your burdens with your other officers as well, because you're not alone. And I think having that trust will just allow each individual to actually genuinely believe that they are not alone in the workload. I'm currently an officer. I know how tiring and how pressurized it can get, and it can get really tiring, and it can be very, very burdensome. But having being able to trust my team, being able to say, I can give this to my team, and my team being able to help me with it and be able to pick me up and actually encourage me as well. It's purely because of the trust that we've built and we're still building. For me, yeah, like I said, it's all about journey. It's a continuous thing because, you know, trust is not, you know, just not built. You know, we love to say we can trust people easily, but sometimes it's a journey to trust people, especially people you just come to work with. So I think, yeah, it's all about journey and trusting the process of that journey as well.
Thank you for both of you for your answers there. So we're coming on to the hardest question, I think, of the whole debate. And this one firstly goes to Cynthia. So Cynthia, if you were a fruit, what fruit would you be and why?
If I was a fruit, what fruit would I be and why? I would say banana, because I do like banana. And I think a lot of people don't like, I think banana is very, very underrated. I think it doesn't get the respect it needs and deserve, but it's probably because it's versatile. I can make a banana pancake, I can make a smoothie, I can make a dessert. Like, you know, banana is just versatile and it's a boss in its own right. And it deserves the respect that people don't give it. So that's what I will be, a banana.
Thank you, Cynthia. I feel like a banana now, I'm not gonna lie. And I'll go to Yasmeen as well. So Yasmeen, if you were a fruit, what fruit would you be and why?
Say a passion fruit, because one, I'm hard on the outside but soft on the inside. And two, I'm very passionate. And I personally, I love passion fruits. When I attended boarding school, I have a lot of memories with my friends where we would climb fences and pick out passion fruits and just throw them to everyone else and just say, yeah, let's have some passion fruits. We weren't allowed, obviously, because, you know, it was dangerous because I was 7. But, you know, I just love the passion fruits. I was passionate about passion fruits. That's all. And they're so sweet and delicious. And I'd like to think I'm also sweet. So
awesome, thank you for that as well. Passion for passion fruit. I feel like it's something their marketing team, some kind of passion fruit company, could be using at the moment. Okay, so thank you very much. That brings to an end the kind of set questions part of this debate tonight. So thank you so much to everybody for all your answers. What you're going to have now is a closing statement. So similar to the opening statement, you're going to have 1 minute to, again, mention any social media handles you want to encourage people to follow. But once your minute's up, that's it. So I will start off with Yasmeen, your closing statement.
This is saying nothing about us without us. And personally, as a member of all 4 liberation groups and just being a student myself, I want to make sure I represent all of you and just work and ensure that all of your needs are met. And just like my slogan, I'm a small girl with a big voice. And if you want to learn any more about my campaign, you can follow me on Instagram at Nesme. It is there. It was linked with my manifesto on the SU website as well. Thank you.
And Cynthia, your closing statement.
I think my slogan is your education, your say. I think it's very important to know that as students, your voice is very powerful and nothing can be done without your voice. And I think, you know, it's being able to empower students that enables me and drives me being able to, because I'm very, very passionate about social justice. I'm very passionate about getting students' voices heard, and voting for me I will definitely do that. That's something is getting your word and your voices heard about your education. So so if you just follow me on social media, I am Cynthia Edo, as well as reading my manifesto on the Student Union website, you'll be able to see the points I'll be working on and the things I'll be doing for you as students. So yeah, make sure you vote for me. I'll definitely get your voice heard about your education. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much to both of you for coming today. And thank you for everybody for watching in at home, listening to what our candidates for president of the Students' Union have to say. Make sure that you check out the other candidates running and vying for positions to represent you at your Students' Union, and make sure that you cast your ballot. Grab your friends and make sure they cast their ballot as well. Thank you to the candidates, and keep safe, everybody. And thank you very much for watching.